from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the program. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation this Tuesday night, give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. We're live, we're national, we're taking your calls. Happy to speak with you. And I want to get into a number of things. I just have to say, this has got to be one of the most eventful summers I've had in a long time, right? And yes, I understand. I'm dumbfounded a little bit here. I'm having a Biden moment because typically, as politics goes, and I've been doing this for a little bit, maybe like 2 decades now, typically you have this lull where everybody in New Jersey, they go down the shore, in Brooklyn, they're at Coney Island, Brighton Beach, everybody's hanging out. After Labor Day, the guns come out, the knives come out, figuratively speaking. Calm down. And it's a big old hoedown, right? But that's not the case right now. Every day there's big, huge breaking stories in the middle of July, at the end of July, going into August. Look at this. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go through some of the headlines that caught my eye, but there's plenty. Secret Service director was shredded on Capitol Hill yesterday. Today, she resigns. Who else is out? Gold Bar Bob. That's right. United States Senator Robert Menendez, Bob Menendez from the Garden State, he's also announced his resignation after he said he was going to run as an independent and he was going to finish his term. They also twisted his arm. So the Dems, it's like we're 2 for 2, right? So the Dems have pushed out Menendez. The Dems have pushed out Biden, all in the name of democracy. And the Republicans, they've got 2 wins of their own, right? They have gotten Cheadle to resign, and with help from the Democrats, right? I think that was a bipartisan effort on Capitol Hill yesterday. And then there's this. Representative Andy Ogles, congressman from Tennessee, he once again has filed articles of impeachment. I say once again because he filed some last year, and we got a clip of that. If I have time, I'll play it for you. But listen to this.
Tennessee Representative Andy Ogles just filed another article impeachment against Harris, but this time it's in connection to allegations against Joe Biden. According to The Hill, this new filing claims Harris covered President Biden's mental well-being, which, quote, breached public trust. This is Ogles' second time filing allegations against Harris. The first filing claims Harris refused to uphold existing immigration laws and, quote, demonstrated extraordinary incompetence in executing her duties and responsibilities as Vice President of the United States. It's important to note the first filing has not gone past its introduction, but Ogles has called on Harris to invoke the 25th Amendment, and that would make herself the acting president against Joe Biden.
All right, so there you have it. Andy Ogles, again, introducing articles of impeachment against Vice President Kamala Harris for her dereliction of duty at the border, amongst other things. And again, part of the articles reads, Kamala Harris has disgraced the office of the vice president and willfully disregarded her oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. She's not only an embarrassment to the country, but has also intentionally ignored her responsibility to enforce the laws of the United States and protect the American people. On her watch, every single town has become a border town. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have overdosed on illicit drugs brought across the southern border, and countless women and children have been raped and murdered, said Congressman Andy Ogles. Kamala Harris, known on this program humorously as Que Mala Eres, has betrayed the trust of the public by failing to exercise her sworn duty to employ the provisions of the 25th Amendment to remove President Biden from office when it became apparent that he was mentally and physically incapable of continuing service to the country. For these reasons alone, immediate action should be taken to impeach her. Now, I don't know if this gets out of committee and it gets to a real floor vote and there's an actual impeachment inquiry that leads to an actual impeachment hearing. I would doubt it much, but you never know. But it's nice to see people taking a swing. It's nice to see people not going, she's not worth it. I'm not going to get my hands dirty. No, get your hands dirty. Come on. Get into the shoving match. Do it. Yes, it's worth it. I'm so tired of people copping out to things. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You really do. And this is part of what I think you got to do. You've got to let them know, I'm not afraid to take a shot, even if I think I'm gonna miss. Swing and a miss. That's just how it goes. It's part of the game. You don't get to only get into the fights you know you're going to win. Come on. There's no fun in that. There's no wisdom in it either. Sometimes you got to take a shot. You never know. David and Goliath. It's biblical, man. Come on. Come on, man. I got hairy legs. Anyway, so that's Andy Ogles. And he's filed these articles of impeachment. Now, he went into it with Joe Biden. He filed these articles of impeachment last year, around this time. It was June 23rd of 2023. And he went in on Biden for all of his dealings with Hunter and his brother James and all of the, kind of like, we'll introduce you to Vice President Biden when he was back with Obama. And, after they introduce him, he miraculously starts getting, he being Hunter, starts getting checks from these people that he just introduced his dad to. And, Dad, can you say hi to so-and-so? Next thing you know, so-and-so's got him on the board of a company paying him $54,000 a month. Amazing, right? What a great life. When you can, I'm going to use the word prostitute, when you can prostitute your father and his office, vice president or president. But anyway, Andy Ogles, congressman from Tennessee, filing articles of impeachment. This is a file audio from last year from our archive. Listen to this one.
Mr. Speaker, Joe Biden has failed the American people. He's failed to uphold his oath of office and preserve and defend the Constitution. From illicit family building, business dealings, and millions of dollars in bribes and payments to himself and to his extended family. Joe and his border czar, Kamala Harris, have allowed an invasion at our southern border, jeopardizing the lives of hundreds of thousands and killing hundreds of thousands with fentanyl. They have directed their border patrol to release illegals into our country unfettered. In fact, the judge even had to intervene and stop Biden's release program. Joe Biden has violated Article 2 of the Constitution to take care and respect the laws of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, that is why I'm introducing articles of impeachment against Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
That is Congressman Andy Ogles from the wonderful state of Tennessee. Tennessee, my nephew and my brother recently went out to Tennessee. They loved it. They were in Nashville. And I was scheduled to go out to Tennessee in November, October for the Fox News Patriot Awards. Really looking forward to going. I was ready to go. And then I got the horrible news that my brother had passed away. So I didn't get to go. And it's, that was, of course, unfortunate. And God rest his soul. But I still want to go to Tennessee. And it's on my bucket list. Also want to, I want to go to Tennessee. I want to go to Nashville. I want to take the whole thing in. I keep hearing a lot about it. I've never been. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, keep an eye out for me posting pictures from Tennessee. Anyway, what else did I want to get into? Oh, yeah, before I part with you, Speaker Mike Johnson, he weighed in on the resignation of Kimberly Cheadle, the Secret Service director, who resigned earlier today after she got her rear end handed to her by members of both sides of the aisle in Congress yesterday. And quite frankly, she's probably getting roasted if she's reading any of the comments on her social media, and realized she's done a bad job and she's not fit for the job. Now, it doesn't mean the person that's replacing her is any better, but it does to me mean I think she did the right thing. Now, again, this could have been like Joe Biden stepping aside after good old Barack Obama, gives him a call and he's like, Joe, let me be clear. It's 25th Amendment if you don't get out of the way. And come on, man. No, let me debate him earlier. You got it, Joe. I don't know what kind of deal they made, but I know that's likely what happened. And I think this was the same way. I was kind of like, hey, listen, these people aren't going to stop until, you're done. So take the high road and say, you know what? The buck stops with me. This was a failure of my command. And for that reason, I'm resigning my position. And I don't know exactly what she said, but good for her, right? She'll live to fight another day. As, the disgraced Secret Service person that maybe she won't be protecting former presidents, but I'm pretty sure she'll land on her feet because she took the high road. Biden, too, honestly. I know a lot of people think he's going to miraculously disappear, and that may happen, but I don't think so, not anytime soon. And I think he'll also land on his feet for doing this, although he would have been way better off, and I'll say it again, I've said it a million times, resigning his position as president, saying, you know what, I want to work in the private sector. I want to give you the best that I've got, and that's Kamala Harris, America's first black woman president. Boom. It's a twofer, right? That would have had the DEI people super excited, the left super excited, the commies super excited, but he didn't do it. He didn't do it for himself, for his own whatever, but that would have been the best thing for his party. And I'm not here rooting for the Democrats. I read the tea leaves. I'm looking at this like a chessboard. That would have been a good move for the Democrats, and they missed it. Anyway, folks, I want to talk about the economy. There was a recent CPI report. I want to talk about jobs. I want to talk about real estate. There's a lot of fluctuation in real estate. I want to talk about inflation a little bit. It seems to be coming down. Gas prices seem to be going up. So I want to get a firm grasp on everything that's happening with the economy, and I want to do that with two-time White House economist Steve Moore. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back, amigos. Now, check this out, familia. A lot of people are very concerned about the economy. There's a lot to discuss. You've got nearly 4 in 10 Americans are worried about making ends meet in the current Harris-Biden economy. And this is a number that's in line with the early stages of the Great Recession. That's right, Barack Obama's economy. So this is just the facts. Life is a lot more expensive now than it was a few years ago. Who happened to be president back then? Well, El Trumpito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, Donald J. Trump. So I want to talk about this new information. It's from a CNN poll, by the way, and I'm going to play that audio in a moment. And I want to get reaction to it from our good friend Steve Moore. He was an economist in the Reagan White House, an economist in the Trump White House, and he's our guest right now. Steve Moore, welcome, sir.
Hi, Rich. It's so good to be with you. By the way, the other day I was listening to Mark
Levin.
Mark Levin, sorry. I don't think I'm power. And he was mentioning all these proteges of his, and he mentioned you, and I didn't realize that you had come of age with Mark Levin, the great one. So that's pretty cool. And
well, thank you, Steve Moore.
Trained. Yeah.
Say that again?
I was just going to say he trained you well.
Oh, he did. And actually, the other day, and I play it as often as I can because it's always a good shot in the arm for me. We've got the CNN report, and it's from today, talking about the economic hardship. Check this out.
Whether it's groceries or car insurance or daycare, life is just a lot more expensive than it was a few years ago. Now, it's true the rate of inflation is down, but prices aren't down. They're still going up, just at a slower pace. And so that is why we're seeing that 39% of U.S. adults say that they worry most or all of the time that their family's income is not going to meet their expenses. 39%, that is up from late 2021, and that's roughly in line with what we saw in mid-2008 during the early stages of the Great Recession.
So this reporter, financial reporter at the CNN, citing their poll, saying that the numbers they're finding right now slightly higher than the percentage that was seen during 2008, during the Great Recession. You've got now a percentage of people, 39%, versus back in 2008, 37%. What does that tell you, Steve Moore?
Well, I'm not sure what the 39% is. What is that?
Oh, the amount of Americans that are worried about making ends meet.
Oh, right. So, well, let's back up a minute because you're kind of to remind people that I did have the privilege of working with Donald Trump, and we had a boom. We had a boom in the economy with Trump until COVID hit. Remember, I mean, if it had not been for COVID, as you know, Rich, Trump would have won a 41 state re-election landslide. It would have been like a Reagan landslide, and then COVID hit, and that changed everything. But the economy was booming, and the average family. Get ready for this, Rich. In fact, I just put out a new report comparing the Trump record on the economy with the Biden record. And we looked at 20 variables that are the main measures, things like poverty rates, things like gas prices, things like incomes, things like small business confidence, all of these different measures. And on 18 out of 20 of them, Trump does better than Biden. And the most important one of all is that when Trump was president, even including the COVID year, when incomes really declined because all the businesses were shut down, the average family gained about $5,500 in real income, and that is to say, they could afford $5,500 more every year than when Trump came into office. That's a high number, by the way. That's better than just about any other recent president. Under Biden, you know what that number is?
What's that?
Negative 2,100.
Wow.
So that means that for all Biden running around the country and now Kamala, oh my God, things are so good. Everybody's doing so well. But wait a minute. No, they're not. The average, what this is telling you is the average family is poorer today than they were 3.5 years ago when Trump left office. That's not a very, strong statistic for 4 more years of this. And people are really stressed out financially because even though inflation really is down, it's now down to about 3%, which is, good. We'd like to get it down to 2%. But remember when it went up to 9.1% in 2021?
Yeah.
Remember that? Or 2022, I mean,
totally.
9.1%. That means even today you're paying 9% more. In other words, when we say, well, inflation's down to 3%, I want to make sure your listeners understand that doesn't mean prices are falling. It just means the rate of increase is not rising as fast as it used to. But we're and by the way, did you see where Biden was trying to blame inflation on Trump?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean,
he said he walked into 9% inflation.
When he left office, when Trump left office, the inflation rate was 1.5%. And then 18 months later, it's 9.1%. And Trump says, Biden says, that's Trump's fault. How? We didn't have any inflation when Trump was president because we had the tax cuts, we did the deregulation, we produced more goods and services, and when you do that, prices fall. So I'm very worried about now obviously Biden is out, but Kamala is basically running on Bidenomics. She said the other day, he's one of the best presidents we've ever had. Did you see her?
Yeah.
Her say that?
Oh, I did. And I think it's all going to come back to bite her in the rear end when she's saying that, he's fantastic. And there's a bunch of Democrats out there singing his praises, I guess to be polite, platitudes and whatnot. But ultimately, if she's co-signing the Biden-Harris economy, she's equally as guilty. Folks, we're coming right back with Steve Moore, former White House economist, and we're going to discuss a little bit of the jobs report, the last jobs report. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing. And they don't know what they were doing. It was probably the worst administration in history.
That is Donald Trump, El Trompito, giving it to good old President Biden, who I like to call Joe El Baboso Biden, at the debate just a month ago, just shy of a month ago, and saying that he's taking credit for jobs. There are people coming back to their existing job as if that were a thing. And I want to talk about jobs with our guest, two-time White House economist Steve Moore. Steve Moore, tell us what's going on with jobs.
Well, okay, so let me give Biden a little bit of due here. I mean, we do have a strong job market today. There's no doubt about that, and that's one of the statistics that he does pretty well on. But there's an asterisk here, okay? And I want to tell you what the asterisk is. Two things. Well, there's two asterisks, actually. The first is what you just mentioned, that a lot of these were just comeback jobs. These were jobs that already existed when Trump was president, but then remember we shut down all the businesses for, 6 or 9 months. And those, once the COVID was over. And by the way, just as an aside, Rich, we can never, ever allow the government to shut down our businesses and our schools again. That was the most outrageous abuse of power in the history of the country. We did a report that shows that 10 times more people died from lockdowns than died from than were saved by lockdowns. They were a horrible, horrible policy. But in any case, back to employment. So most, I'd say I think the latest number is about half the jobs that he's taking credit for are jobs that already existed, Rich, but just when the businesses reopened, they rehired those people. Now, the unemployment rate is good, and there are jobs out there, so I'll give Biden credit for that. But do you know what the number one and number two employers have been over the last 12 months? Government. And the other one is healthcare, which is half government, right? It's half paid for. So we shouldn't be adding government jobs. Rich, we are running a $2 trillion deficit. We should be actually reducing the federal workforce, not increasing it. I mean, Rich, if you were running a business and that business was losing $2 trillion a year, would you go out and start hiring people?
Oh, of course not.
I mean, it's insanity what's going on in Washington. And then they claim, oh, look at the good economy. But look, a government job is like a fake job. Look, I mean, we do need government jobs, but we have a federal workforce.
But it's not an indicator of the economy.
Exactly. That's right. And by the way, do you know what percentage? This statistic blows me away. Do you know what percentage of federal workers in Washington, D.C., where I reside, do you know what percentage of those workers are working full-time in the office today?
I'm going to go with something low, like 20.
You know, that's what people usually say, 20, 25%. But you're not even close, Rich. It's 7%.
Wow.
You go into these federal office buildings,
that's crazy.
The Department of Interior, you know, you've been in some of these buildings. They're cavernous. They're huge, block-long buildings. You go into these, it's spooky. There's nobody there. And, you know, why? Because, well, those buildings were shut down in COVID. Guess what? It was 2 years ago that they were all ordered to come back to work, and they haven't come back to work. You got people who are making $150,000 a year, working 15 or 20 hours a week. It's cheating taxpayers.
Wow. Folks, we're on with Steve Moore, former Reagan economist, former Trump economist. And Steve Moore, this is of concern to me because I heard some estimates that the 206,000 jobs that were added in June were in line with the expectations, but they had to go and adjust May's numbers and April's numbers with revisions, right? And this seems to be what they do all the time. So how can I trust the June number?
Well, that's a good point. I think 10 out of the 12, I think 9 or 10 out of the last 12 months, they've revised the numbers down. And I'm not sure why that is. I don't have a good explanation for it, but they keep saying, "Oh, we created 300,000 jobs," and then, "Oops, no, it was only 200,000." So, but the headline still goes out: 300,000 jobs created.
Right.
And so I don't know. The other thing that's going on here is that a lot of those jobs that have been created are part-time jobs. 20 or 30 hours a week. Now, Rich, try to raise a family on a 20 or 30-hour a week job.
Steve Moore, when I got into radio, I got in part-time. And let me tell you, hardest thing ever. I had a child support bill. I had recently gotten divorced. It was very rough to make that transition. So I remember that very, very well, and it's not easy.
Yeah. So it's look, I think my advice to people, by the way, is, there are jobs out there, especially if you have the necessary skills, but get the jobs while they're still there, because, we still have 3 or 4 months of Biden and Harris. And, given this massive deficits, I mean, I'm very worried, Rich, about a financial crisis in this country. And I don't know if it's going to happen in 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years, but everyone listening to the show knows a great nation cannot borrow $2 trillion a year. This is supposed to be a recovery, and we're borrowing $2 trillion a year?
Yeah, and this is the part I think a lot of people, they hear $2 trillion a year, and it because they hear so many big numbers so often, people are like, yeah, don't we do that all the time? I think we kind of come either like used to the abuse or immune to it.
Yeah, I mean, most people, and I include myself, I can't probably tell, you probably can't tell the difference between 2 million, 2 billion, 2 trillion, 2 quadrillion, what comes after trillion, I don't even know. I mean, but the number of zeros, just to put this, it's 2 trillion is the number 2 and 12 zeros. 12 zeros. $1 trillion is $1 million.
Wow. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Oh, boy. Folks, we're on with Steve Moore. He used to be with FreedomWorks. Now he's with the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, who has an amazing newsletter, by the way. Their newsletter, I check it out every single day. Matter of fact, look, I have it open still on my other email. Red states gain nearly $200 billion in extra income due to domestic migration. That's the first headline of many in the Committee to Unleash Prosperity hotline. Today's hotline number 1066. If you don't have one, you should definitely subscribe. It's absolutely free. Steve Moore does a great job with this. Folks, we're coming right back with Steve Moore. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Rich Valdez, who, again, will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So people are leaving blue states and they're moving to red states, and these red states are getting nearly $200 billion in extra income due to domestic migration. Our guest, two-time White House economist Steve Moore, is with us. Steve Moore, tell us more about this.
Well, this has been going on for the last 25 or 30 years, where taxes are so high in the blue states, and then they have, so many regulations. They have forced union policies. They have all sorts of policies that really make it unaffordable to live in these blue states. And so what's been happening, we have 9 states now that have no income tax at all, including states like Florida and Texas, and states like Tennessee and New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And people are really migrating to those areas with lower taxes, less regulation. And it's happening. I mean, I'm right now in California, which is beautiful. I mean, California is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And every time I come here, I'm like, how do they ruin this state? It is the most gorgeous place. It's a slice of heaven. And people are leaving California. For 200 years, people would go to California. Now it's so unlivable because of the crime, the homelessness, the craziness on the streets, the high taxes, that people are actually leaving, and they're going to Texas, and they're going to Florida, and they're going to Utah. And so taxes matter. And if we raise our taxes on our businesses in Washington, those businesses are going to move to other countries.
Yeah. Listen, I agree with you. And you're right. This has been going on since I was a kid. Everybody's going to Florida. Everybody wanted to go to Florida. But in recent years, at least from the report I'm looking at from your email, you've got from 2019 to 2022, red states gaining 2.23 million net domestic migrants. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And all at the expense of the blue states.
They're paying the taxes in the red states, not the blue states. That's why the blue states are going bankrupt and the red states are doing pretty well. I mean, this has been, as I said, this has been going on. And I laugh because they're talking about who Kamala, if she wins the nomination, who would take as her vice president. And they're saying, well, maybe one of these Democratic governors like Gavin Newsom or, I'm from Illinois. They've got Pritzker there. They're like, these are the worst governors in America. Why? Do we really want America to look like California or Illinois or New Jersey or New York? I mean, they look, progressives contaminate everything that they touch. And that's what's happened to our great cities. It's happening to our states. And God forbid that we let it happen to America.
Are rates going to come back down, Steve Moore?
Yeah, I think they will a bit. When Trump left office, the rates were, 2%, and then they went up to like 6-7%. I do think you'll see the Fed cut rates in September, and I think it's probably, inflation is finally tame enough they can probably do that. But we're not out of the woods yet. I mean, a mortgage today is, in most areas, 7%. They were 3% when Trump was president. So if you want to buy a new house, people can't afford to buy a new house now. I mean, young people, they don't have the money. They can't pay the monthly mortgages.
Well, and that's why I'm asking. I'm looking to make a move, and some of my friends are telling me things are going to be coming down soon, so I'm patiently waiting. But I just don't know if values go down. Does that mean that rates are going to go down? Because that's the ideal scenario, right? Where you can really have a competitive market where it's affordable and you can get a mortgage for it.
Well, of course, it depends on if you already own a home like you do, then you don't want the value to go down. But, we want to make sure the interest rates are low enough for people to afford a home. And look, the average mortgage rate on a 30-year mortgage for a value home was about $100 a month.
Steve Moore, you're cutting in and out. I don't know if you're moving or whatnot, but what was the average on the mortgage? One more time. I think we've lost Steve Moore. Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I lost you there for a second. But I was saying that the mortgages are twice as expensive today.
Exactly. That's my point. And I think this is the reason why people aren't buying. So even if you decide you want to move, people are like, A, it's expensive, and B, it's expensive to get the money, to get the loan. So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. The other thing that's going on, by the way, because I know you have a lot of people who are listening to your show while they're driving their cars, and have you been to McDonald's lately? I remember they used to have the $1 menu. I went through the days.
They don't.
It's now the $5 menu.
I went there the other day for two people. I think I spent $26.
I can't believe it. I mean, it's bad when we can't even afford McDonald's, but I couldn't believe it. I took my two kids, and I think we got Big Mac meals. They got steaks, and it was like $30. I was like, oh, my God, things really are expensive.
Man. Steve Moore, I want you to tell everybody how they can get the free newsletter and how they can keep up to speed with all the great work that you're doing.
Well, thank you, Rich. We put out something called the Unleash Prosperity Hotline, which is free. I'm not telling anybody anything. There's no Biden inflation here. It's just go to unleashprosperity.com and sign up, and we'll send it to you 4 mornings a week. And, I'm so overjoyed with people like you. That's the first thing you do every morning.
Will do. And, this is something that I subscribe to, and I will prescribe to everybody listening. It's from the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. That's the website, committeetounleashprosperity.com. And definitely click to subscribe. Absolutely free. Lots of really good information, economic information. Steve Moore, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you so much. Godspeed to you. And, folks, your calls and opinions and thoughts on everything from Kimberly Cheadle resigning from the Secret Service director role, the articles of impeachment against Kamala Harris by Congressman Andy Ogles from Tennessee, and, of course, Gold Bar Bob, Senator Bob Menendez, being, I'm going to say he was ousted because of his guilty plea. I think his party really just kind of tossed him out, but, made it look like he wanted to go, although he said he wasn't going to go, kind of like a Biden. Anyway, your thoughts on all of that and more, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833 833-4Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4Valdez. That's Valdez with an S. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our discussion and, of course, your phone calls, 833-482-5337, 833-4Valdez. And as mentioned, the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, has resigned her position. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, weighed in.
Well, she must have been watching our press conference. I'm glad she did the right thing. Look, our reaction, the immediate reaction to her resignation is that it is overdue. She should have done this at least a week ago. I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see that she has heeded the call of both Republicans and Democrats. Now we have to pick up the pieces. We have to rebuild the American people's faith and trust in the Secret Service as an agency.
Right. Good luck. I don't know if the American people, I mean, honestly, I don't think I'll ever have faith in the American government like I did before I learned about politics and worked in government myself. We tend to think that most people are righteous and err on the side of doing things the right way. And then you actually work there and you realize, wow, they actually err on the side of screwing you over. It's the laugh of incredulity. Anyway, Speaker Johnson didn't stop there. With the discussion on Kimberly Cheadle. And, of course, I was thinking of giving her a nickname, maybe Kim Sin Que Vergüenza. How about that? Kim Que Vergüenza Cheadle, which means what a shame, how shameful. But I don't know if we'll need a name for her because she's gone. But he didn't stop there. The Speaker of the House decided to keep going and call for another resignation. Listen to this.
One thing is clear. If Joe Biden is not fit to run for president, he is not fit to run the country. We're stating the obvious. We're stating what everybody is seeing with their own eyes. And it's a hard truth, but it's one that the country has to face.
So that's that. And, of course, your calls and your thoughts on Gold Bar Bob and articles of impeachment, as well as the economy. Let's go to Sunset Beach, California, WRNN. Check in with David. David, welcome. You're on with Rich Valdez. Go ahead.
Well, hi, Rich. Thank you so much for letting us participate. I called you last time about immigration. I'm kind of a math guy, and this is what I think. If you take 220 million adults and you divide that into 34 trillion dollars, whether you've paid off all your Visa cards or not, every one of us is carrying $100,000 of government debt because they don't earn anything. They don't make anything.
Right.
And I know you said it gets big numbers and it just, everybody gets glossy-eyed, but ask your phone. 220 million adult voters, grown-ups, whatever, $34 trillion divided out, and every one of us, even if, and that's the other thing, common sense, even if you pay your mortgage and pay your auto loan and pay your Visa cards, you know, we're carrying $100,000 of debt each, and sooner or later, they're going to come after us. We're going to have to pay.
Right. And they're either going to print more money or they're going to just extract it in more taxes or a combination of both, right? Because, you know, one is not related to the other. They will still print more money and they will still collect more taxes. Very, very good assessment, David. Thanks for the call, by the way. Big shout out to everybody in Sunset Beach, California. WRNN in the building. Shout out to everybody in California. And folks, we continue with hour number 2 straight ahead. More conversation. The black vote goes to who? Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be here with you this Tuesday night, excuse me. And we're live, we're national. The phone number, if you want to join us, 833-482-5337. 833-4-Valdez is the phone number. And again, big stories today. You've got Gold Bar Bob, United States Senator Bob Menendez, announcing his resignation as of August 20th. He will not be seeking re-election as an independent. He's quitting his job as the United States Senator after being found guilty on all charges of corruption and bribery and all sorts of other things. And you've got the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle. She has resigned her position as well. That's two Democrats for the price of one. Kim Cheadle, who oversaw the Secret Service when they failed to protect President Trump, and he was saved by the grace of God when an assassin, a would-be assassin, tried to shoot him in the head and clipped him in the ear. So she's out. We also have a reaction from the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, on that. Listen to this.
Well, she must have been watching our press conference. I'm glad she did the right thing. Look, our reaction, the immediate reaction to her resignation is that it is overdue. She should have done this at least a week ago. I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see that she has heeded the call of both Republicans and Democrats. Now we have to pick up the pieces. We have to rebuild the American people's faith and trust in the Secret Service as an agency.
Now, that, again, is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, weighing in. Then you've got, speaking of the House, you have the Congressman from Tennessee, Andy Ogles. He's filed articles of impeachment against Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, who on this program is known as Que Mala Eres. Listen to this.
Tennessee Representative Andy Ogles just filed another article impeachment against Harris, but this time it's in connection to allegations against Joe Biden. According to The Hill, this new filing claims Harris covered President Biden's mental well-being, which, quote, breached public trust. This is Ogles' second time filing allegations against Harris. The first filing claims Harris refused to uphold existing immigration laws and, quote, demonstrated extraordinary incompetence in executing her duties and responsibilities as Vice President of the United States. It's important to note the first filing has not gone past its introduction, but Ogles has called on Harris to invoke the 25th Amendment, and that would make herself the acting president against Joe Biden.
Now, we've got some questions that are out there with respect to Kamala Harris, and will she become the first black woman president of the United States? Will this sway black Americans who have been somewhat gravitating towards Donald Trump in recent, I'd say, the last couple of years? He's been making gains better than most or any Republicans before him. And a lot of people are wondering, will this trend continue? So much so that it was the talk of the town at last week's Republican National Convention. You had Amber Rose, who I believe is half black, but a model, entrepreneur, influencer who is a big part of the culture. And she spoke out at the RNC. Listen to what she had to say.
My name is Amber Rose. I'm a model and entrepreneur. Thank you. But most importantly, I'm a mother. My whole world revolves around providing for my children, keeping them safe, and giving them an opportunity for a better life. That's something that unites all American parents. Whether we're Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, or liberals, we all want a better country for our children. But I'm here tonight to tell you, no matter your political background, that the best chance we have to give our babies a better life is to elect Donald Trump President of the United States.
Now, again, Amber Rose, who famously married Wiz Khalifa, the rapper, and is a part of hip-hop culture, was out there making the case for Donald Trump on many fronts, saying that she also hated Trump at one point and was lied to by the media, and it was her father that set her straight. And I think this is an experience a lot of people have had, and I think Democrats are banking on the fact that now that they've pushed Biden out of the race, that somehow this is going to bode well for them to hold on to the black vote. And it may very well be having a black woman at the top of their ticket. So to get the analysis on this and the opinion of an expert, I want to welcome our guest, Bob Woodson. He is a civil rights champion and the founder of the Woodson Center. We've had him on the show before. He's a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Bob Woodson, welcome back, sir.
Pleased to be here.
Thank you.
Pleased to be here.
Tell me a little bit about what you think. First, what do you think about Amber Rose's speech?
It was a good speech, but I think an unfortunate choice to represent their interest in black outreach. It's also, I think that Republicans would do well to select someone whose values and aligns with their own. Amber Rose is known to be championing called the slut walk in Los Angeles. But I think what the person that I think they should have been highlighting is Madeleine Brain. She was a black woman from New York whose murdered veteran son served the country. She gave a compelling example. They should have had 7 Madeleine Blaines on that podium talking about how that blacks have suffered serial abuse at the hands of black elected officials liberals who have run these cities for 50 years. They should have had 3 black couples in Chicago, for instance, who lost rental dwelling because illegal migrants were given housing vouchers that were above the market, and therefore landlords were putting low-income black families out on the street and renting to illegal migrants. They should have had families from Dorchester up in Roxbury, Massachusetts, who pleaded with the local government to fix up a recreation center for decades, but they couldn't do it. But the Biden administration fixed up the center to move only migrants in, and so that low-income blacks do no longer have access to it. This is the story that should have been presented at the convention. The voices of people whose values and actions are square with those of the Republican Party. So this is as opposed to an Amber Rose.
I understand. And you're not the only one that was critical of that. Matter of fact, some came to her defense, like Van Jones on CNN, but other correspondents at CNN, Ashley Allison, took exception to Amber Rose being there. Listen to this.
That is a young woman of color. She's describing the experience a lot of people have, feeling that maybe if you're around too many liberals, you might get criticized too much, or you might not be able to speak your mind. And she spoke to it really well. And she's way more famous than any of us up here. Yeah. I'm going to tell you that, way more famous. And so to the extent that these guys are trying to bust up our coalition, that was a bunker buster right there.
I think it was kind of comical. The Republican Party is doing this, making this effort to court black voters. And I think that Amber Rose was an attempt, and it was a failed attempt. Amber Rose is not where the culture is. It's not the person that black voters are going to take their political cues for. And it just was weird, quite honestly. And so when you talk in the group chats, when you're on Twitter, when you're just having conversations, people are like, what did she say? Like, these are my people. And we're like, okay, go ahead.
Of course, Ashley Allison referencing part of the speech where Amber Rose says that the MAGA people, the Trump supporters, are her people. And Bob Woodson, I agree that there was controversy surrounding Amber Rose, but I think the overall sentiment here is that the Trump campaign is trying to make inroads with the black community, and it seems that the Democrats are now trying to slow those down with their choice of a black woman nominee. Do you think it'll be effective? And if so, by how much?
No, I don't think it's going to be effective. I mean, the Woodson Center has about 2,000 Madeline Blaines in a group called the Voices of Black Mothers United. These are all black mothers who lost their children to urban violence. And Kamala Harris has, you remember when the George Floyd riots, she set up a bail fund for the rioters. And not a single Democrat at their convention spoke out against the rioting, the burning of the police precinct building in Minnesota, the burning of a black restaurant, the black hairdresser burned to the ground.
Right.
And so these are the abuses that our people. But if you look in 2018, DeSantis only won by 32,000 votes, and he ran against Gillum, a black mayor.
Right, the mayor of Tallahassee.
To support him, right, Tallahassee. He brought in Oprah Winfrey and Barack Obama, yet 100,000 low-income blacks split their ticket with Biden and then with DeSantis. And so DeSantis got elected. Why? Because DeSantis stood firm for choice in education. If Republicans will speak to the issues that are bread and butter issues that are concerned to the black community, they will benefit. Dick Riordan, I wrote a column in the Wall Street Journal talking about Dick Riordan in 1993 became the first Republican mayor of the city of Los Angeles, because 2 years before he declared for office, he went into the black and brown community and planted charitably, and he harvested politically because he spoke to the needs of the people there. And when he ran for re-election, he was voted by 60% of the electorate. So there are examples that when Republicans reach out to the black community with substantive approaches that address real bread and butter issues that are concerned to people, they will understand that the black community is not monolithic. There's no one person you can bring on stage that speaks for. Amber Rose is a rich celebrity. She has nothing in common with this mother, who lost her child. So Republicans need to really get this part of their message straight and select people, give voice to the voiceless in these communities, and it will yield. And I think when Trump went to the South Bronx, when he went to Detroit, he's gone where no Republican has gone before. And I think that they should. It's important for the black community to be recruited away from the Democratic Party. My goal is to make them swing voters.
Yep, well put. Bob Woodson, stand by. We're coming right back with you. Folks, we're on with Bob Woodson, founder of the Woodson Center. Excellent website. You got to check out the website. It's woodsоncenter.org. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Pastor, now he lost Detroit by 94% last time around. So what does Donald Trump's outreach mean to the community?
When you are in the worst of the worst, you're talking about women being human trafficked literally on the street next to us. You're talking about a methadone clinic where 500 people go every single day that are generationally addicted. When the president is willing to come and bring his presence, he is gaining relational equity, or we would call it in our community, street credibility.
That is Pastor Lorenzo Sewell. He's a pastor in Detroit. Trump visited his church, and he says Trump has street cred. because he visited his church. And I would agree, right? He went on to say that at the RNC. It took about 6 or 7 minutes, 8 minutes to make the speech, but saying that, this wasn't in the best neighborhood in Detroit. I think he said this was the hood, is what he said. And it goes to show you, similar to what our guest, Bob Woodson, founder of the Woodson Center, civil rights champion, part of what he said as well, that when Trump really went to these places, it was a place no Republican had ever gone before. I want to welcome our guest back, Bob Woodson. What do you think of what Pastor Sewell said?
He's absolutely right. Many years ago, you got other Republicans who've done the same thing without the kind of recognition. Governor Sam Brownback in Kansas, when he got elected welfare reform, he brought the Woodson Center in, and for 2 years, we went around to 6 different cities in Kansas introducing his staff, his welfare staff, to grassroots leaders who were helping people to seek lives of independence. And some of these government officials contracted with these local groups. He saw a dramatic drop in welfare in his state, and as a consequence, he won a claim. And so when he went for re-election, he won re-election at a time when others said he would lose, because he was honest and candid and offered concrete solutions. And Bob Taft in Ohio many years ago, we worked there for 2 years. He did the same thing. So you have Republicans who have been successfully elected and re-elected to office. Steve Goldsmith in Indianapolis is another one that we worked with for 6 years in privatizing public service and contracted with local black churches, and so that teenagers were hired to maintain parks, and therefore the parks were maintained well. There was safety in the park. So that's an empowerment agenda. Right. And when Republicans, that's what they should be putting their time and energy into, an empowerment agenda, instead of just looking to symbols of people coming to speak.
Right. Yeah. I get that. Rather than a surrogate, really speak to the actual issue and create a movement. Bob Woodson, I want you to let everybody know how they can learn more about the Woodson Center. How do they find you?
We're at, and thanks for inviting me on too, let me say.
Of course.
We're at thewoodsonCenter.org, or it's 1776unites.com, or thewoodsonCenter.org. You can come and join and help us. We have several exciting programs. We have a curriculum 1776 to counter Nicole Hannah-Jones's 1619. We had over 200,000 downloads of a curriculum promoting the virtues and values of America, and so we just invite you to come and be inspired. We don't engage in gladiatorial debate. We think the best way to prevail against your enemies is to demonstrate to them that the values that made this country so great have the consequence of improving the quality of people's lives, particularly the least of these.
Outstanding. Bob Woodson, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I want to thank you for being here. Godspeed to you, sir.
And thank you for having me on.
You bet. Folks, more to come straight ahead. We're going to talk about homes. Are they being built smaller than usual? Is that a new trend? Is it a tiny home revolution, or is it inflation? You're going to find out straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
My hands across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5787. 5337 833 4Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
So we're going to talk about tiny homes in a moment. But first, something I mentioned earlier that I really want to get to is the praise that is being heaped on both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Now, everybody was in on it. Everybody, right? This is the reason we had this unprecedented June debate, something we've never had before and hopefully we'll never have again. Clearly, because this was the, part of the strong arming. Now, I don't think it was an accident or anybody was, it's not the radio business, right? Where they tell you, no, just keep going. You walk yourself off a cliff. No, it's politics where I think they tell you, hey, look, this is what you got to do, or we're going to do this. And I think Joe wanted to prove himself. They knew he'd fail. So he goes out, he does this horrible job, and it doesn't matter what, even if Biden would have scored, right? My prediction the whole time was that Biden was going to have one or two gloves that he landed on Trump and that the media was going to, play those on loop to back him up. Well, that's where I was wrong. He might have had, an instance or two where he spoke up, but that didn't matter because the media refused to play up anything. They all had their orders because they're the Democrats within, right? The left within the media. And the left in the media, it didn't matter how well or badly he did. The report was always going to be the same. Biden's horrible performance by Joe Biden, horrible. And they echoed and echoed and echoed, and they sounded more critical of Biden than I've ever sounded. And they went out there and they did that because they needed to get Biden out. They needed it to seem like a mutiny, and it was. And now they're all back in line, right? They're all in tune, and they're all back in sync, saying, Kamala's got the energy. Kamala is the one. She can bring it to Donald Trump. She's got the energy. She's got the experience. She's a prosecutor. He's a criminal. This is exactly the matchup we need. She's got the youth and the energy and the energy and the youth. And I mean, I just keep hearing this. And it's funny. Where were these people when she ran for president? Oh, there was no youth and energy back then. She was younger back then. Fake, phony, fraud. The media is full of it. And that's coming from me, that I'm sort of a quasi-member of this media, right? I guess. I'm a commentator on radio. I don't think that makes me a cable news person. But listen to this. This is a montage of a mashup of all of these folks, all of them, just saying how wonderful Biden's first single term was. And they can't wait to get behind Kamala. Listen to this.
Breaking news. President Biden has just announced that he is ending his re-election bid.
Now, we'll all remember where we were and what we were doing at this moment.
Him watching the waves at Rehoboth Beach, down the street from the boardwalk and the ice cream stand.
Joe Biden has been one of the most consequential and transformative presidents this country's ever seen.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
What a man. What a patriot.
This is leadership. This is patriotism.
This is a day for Joe Biden.
He can read a poll. He can read a room. He can read a nation.
His heart is as big and as true and as strong.
He has been a phenomenal president.
The president, in a tweet just announcing that he is offering his full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the party.
Vice President Harris, she is now perhaps the most important political figure in the United States.
That backbone of the Democratic Party, Black women.
She's somebody who I think has an incredible ability to go out and inspire people and to get them excited about her.
This injects energy.
The Democratic Party will now unify like nothing you have seen from this party in many years.
It's a question of whether or not you want to go backwards with Donald Trump or forward with Kamala Harris.
The Democratic Party is a family. At the end of the day, it's a family matter.
It's a family matter. They should have played the theme song from the show with Urkel, right? Family Matters. Anyway, so yeah, the Democrats are here. The violins are playing. They are gushing over Biden. Kamala's got the energy. She's the best thing ever. She's the single best, huge, fantastic best. She's got the best words. I mean, it's just fantastic to see what's going on. And they don't stop, right? You've got, let's see, who do we have here? Jen Pasaki. Then we got Rep. Maxine Waters. She says that Kamala's smarter than Trump. We'll get to that in a second. We got Congresswoman Lucy McBath. She says that Kamala Harris can stand up to extremist rhetoric. Hold on, there was another one I saw here that I wanted to see. Here we go. Chuck Schumer, he's at a White House press conference today. He says, we're here to throw our support behind Kamala Harris. And this is a short clip, but nobody claps. Listen to this.
So now that the process is played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have
to. Yeah, he was hoping they would, and they weren't with him on that one. But you've got the Democrat leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, at the same press conference saying that Harris has earned the nomination. Listen to this.
President Joe Biden has made the selfless decision to pass the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris, who is ready, willing, and able to lead us into the future. Kamala Harris and her candidacy has excited and energized the House Democratic Caucus, the Democratic Party, and the nation. Vice President Harris has earned the nomination.
As you can see, he also paused for some applause and didn't get it. Nobody's enthused. Nobody really cares. Even AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, even she's out there saying, look, we're not all in sync with this. And she says, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, that we don't all agree. And if you think for a second all Democrats are behind getting rid of Joe Biden or endorsing Kamala Harris, you've got another thing coming. Listen to this.
I'm in these rooms.
There we go.
I see what they say in conversations. A lot of them are not just interested in removing the president. They are interested in removing the whole ticket. Am I here to guarantee that that is what is going to happen, or that is what will happen? I can't tell you that, because as we all know, politics is insane. Anyone who tells you 100% what's going to happen is lying to you or engaged in an enormous amount of hubris. I'm not here to tell you that if Joe Biden is the nominee, he's definitely going to win. But because I don't think if anybody is the nominee, we're definitely going to win. Okay? And I understand where we want to talk about hedging bets. But I do want you to know what gets uncorked. Because if you think that's going to be an easy transition, I'm here to tell you that a huge amount of the donor class and a huge amount of these elites and a huge amount of these folks in these rooms that I see that are pushing for President Biden to not be the nominee also are not interested in seeing the vice president being the nominee. Will they win out on that? I don't know.
Well, looks like she's got more than half the delegates, and maybe the extreme left, the AOCs, and the rest of the squad may not be on board with Harris. But it seems like Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, has pretty much got this thing locked down, and she's going to get to pick her person. Let's see. I mean, we've got another couple of weeks before they have maybe 3 weeks before they do their thing. So we're going to find out. But they're going nuts, praising her, and I've got so many more of these clips I can play, but I also want to talk about this small house trend. And I don't mean tiny houses like you see on television, but I'm wondering, is that stuff influencing people, or is it the Biden economy and inflation, the cost of wood going up and everything else that it costs to build a home, not to mention to finance it with all of these interest rates going up? Does that impact it? Of course it does, but there's a trend homes seem to be getting smaller. We're going to talk to a real estate pro to find out more about that. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. He's brown, he's bald, and he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Ben Fry is a home builder, putting finishing touches on a new house that looks a little different from typical subdivision homes.
Kind of enough space for a bed and your dressers. You're not seeing the sitting rooms in here anymore.
The homes in this community are smaller, on much smaller lots.
Lots are becoming harder and harder for builders and developers to find.
With land and building costs so high,
people are getting smarter with the square footage, putting more square foot into the livable space.
The National Association of Home Builders says home size shot up in 2021 when the pandemic sparked demand for more space. Since then, though, floor plans have started to shrink. Data from the Census Bureau shows square footage of new housing units is down from about 2,500 square feet in 2021, closer to 2,300 square feet in the first quarter of this year.
Home builders are responding to affordability issues.
NerdWallet's Holden Lewis says structures like townhomes are cheaper to build and cheaper to buy.
You want to buy your starter home, you're kind of forced to start small.
Lewis says buyers are giving up perks such as extra windows and garage space. Homebuyer Carolyn Marsh, downsizing from a large family home, is sold on the idea of small.
The smaller house, I really feel like I'm freedom from taking care of such a large place and yard.
And that way you don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese.
That's the report from WCPO TV in Cincinnati. And I want to get some reaction to that from somebody who understands the real estate markets better than most. Jennifer Hammond, welcome.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for being with us tonight. Now, Jennifer Hammond, I know that you spend a lot of your time talking about lots of interesting things. And real estate is your specialty, where you educate and empower and inspire people. And I want to get some of your insight and your opinion really on this smaller and smaller homes. Well, I'm a political guy, so I tend to think it's the economy, as many would think. But I'm sure there's more to it. Help us understand.
Well, definitely, you are correct. It is the economy. It is much more expensive to build than it was even 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. There's so many costs that weren't there before. And part of it is, it depends on where you are in the country on the different things that impact it. Like in Florida, you're seeing hurricanes, and insurance companies are, that's a huge political issue. They're just flying out of the state. So the cost of insurance is making it so expensive for anyone to own a house, never mind for builders to build. And so they're trying to figure out, well, how can we be as efficient as possible? So hallways are disappearing, things that you're not using. And I hate to say, like dining rooms. People have eat-in kitchens because that's just the way they live. It's a lifestyle thing as well as a cost. And then there's another part of it, which I think you're old enough to remember as well. We used to have a lot more stuff. We had albums and we had CDs. We had stuff.
I still have a closet filled with my mom's photo albums.
There you go. See, and people now, they keep those on their phone or they keep them in a cloud. So you don't need the storage space you used to need for that. And an entertainment center, like your TV has shrunk and now it's on the wall. It hangs like a painting on the wall.
Right.
So you don't need the same space and that big furniture that used to be clunky. And so now we're seeing those things disappear. And the lifestyle is very different for people.
So when you say lifestyle is different, you're saying like family sizes being smaller, or what exactly are you referring to there?
Oh, no, I was referring to particularly, we don't sit down for dinner as much. So dining rooms have disappeared, or dining rooms have turned into their where everybody's doing their office at home if they're working from home. So they might do the eat-in kitchen when their homes are definitely shrinking, and that's across the United States, and especially with new home builders. But even with, like for myself, I'm also a real estate investor. So when I'm running the numbers, and I teach real estate investing as well, and we're looking at what makes sense here, we're trying to figure out, well, how can we utilize every single inch of a home? And a lot of times we're transforming it into something different, and in one way or another, in meaning that the garage may end up becoming an in-law suite. It may be, where you either rent it out or you have another generation, like maybe the grandparents decide to live in what used to be the garage, and now that's a tiny home of its own.
Yeah. And I'm going to take a quick pause right here, Jennifer Hammond, but I want to come back and ask you a couple of quick questions in a very short segment that we'll have. But there's a lot of speculation about should people be investing now or should they wait a few more months or next year? I want to get your insight on that. Folks, we're coming right back with real estate educator Jennifer Hammond.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. And a lot of people want to invest in real estate. We're having a conversation with Jennifer Hammond. She's a real estate educator and the host of Yay, the Jennifer Hammond podcast. And earlier tonight, we spoke with a former White House economist who said that real estate investing days are going to be better as interest rates come down. That makes a lot of sense. I have a friend that's a hard money lender, and he says, don't buy it yet, Rich. There's going to be some opportunities in Southern Florida before you know it. And I'm asking Jennifer Hammond, should I wait? Should I move? What should we do?
Well, there's so many opportunities right now. I would have to say, like right now, there are so many opportunities because also there are a lot of programs out there that are also helping home buyers. And like, for instance, in the Tampa area, there's $80,000 for someone who is a home buyer. And that's not necessarily a first-time home buyer. That's a home buyer, not somebody who's buying necessarily a $2 million home, but somebody who's buying a home. And anyway, so there's so many programs right now, but I would agree with your hard money lender in the fact that there are more and more foreclosures and short sales and some really interesting opportunities that will be coming. So I hate to say, I would always say right now is the best time to buy if you find the deal that fits the numbers and what you want and what returns you want. So also, I wanted to give a gift to your audience of a free book. I have a book I created, 7 Mistakes that Home Buyers Make. And so if you go to Jennifer's class, so Jennifer with an S, class.com, and it's a free book. It's 7 mistakes that home buyers make. And one of them I talk about in there is not taking advantage of all of those programs. There's federal programs, there's state programs, there's county programs, and there's just so much money out there for home buyers right now that they should take advantage of it. I highly recommend it. And as you said, I'm an educator, so I'm really passionate about helping people understand how to fish and not just hand them a fish.
Outstanding. Jennifer Hammond, I love it. Hope to have you back on the program soon. I really appreciate it. And folks, we are going to continue with our national conversation with you all, the listeners. 833-482-5337 is the hotline. You can start your calls now. Open Phone America is coming right up, and we're going to discuss everything from home sales, real estate prices, investing nightmares. If you've made any investments that were difficult, I want to hear all about it. Plus, everything else that's off the beaten path and everything that we've mentioned, right? We've talked about a lot tonight, from the resignation of Gold Bar Bob to Kimberly Cheadle, as well as Que Mala Eres in the driver's seat and El Trompito. Plenty to discuss, folks. I'm Rich Valdez, coming right back. Open Phone America.
from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Tuesday night. Our phone number, if you want to join our conversation, there's a few open lines, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. This is the third hour of the show. We like to call it Open Phone America. And that's where we have open phones across America. You get to call in with your thoughts, opinions, and everything else. If you want to talk about something we haven't talked about, I'm open to that too. That's one of the cool rules of this third hour of the program. It doesn't have to be on the agenda, but let's make it make sense one way or another. And again, 833-4-Valdez is the number for that. We've got calls right now hanging on. I'm just going to give you a little bit of info. Pittsburgh, Montana, Chicago, Arkansas, Pittsburgh again, Idaho. Woo! Anyway, so we've got a lot, and we're going to get to all of your calls momentarily. Going to give a few other people a chance to call in. And I want to, recap on the headlines. Big headline from this morning. Kimberly Cheadle, the Secret Service director, has resigned her job. Why? Well, because she was bad at it and nearly got Trump killed because her job was to make sure, and again, her job is, some of our guests have pointed out, her job is to run the Secret Service, which is not a primary function of, presidential security, but surely a big one. But their primary function is counterfeit cash. But either way, in the function of protecting a former president and a current candidate for president, she blew it. And Trump got shot in the ear. Thankfully, that's all it was, and it wasn't worse. So she's resigned. A lot of people were excited about that. Speaker Mike Johnson weighed in on that, saying that she took heed to his requests and got it. Then we've got Gold Bar Bob. Gold Bar Bob Menendez, United States Senator from the state of New Jersey. Every now and again, he gets into it with his own party, right? And they don't look him out. And the reason they don't, I think it's because he's Cuban. And I think because he's Cuban, he has some loyalties to Cuban Republicans that vote for him, even though he's a Democrat. And it's a pretty big constituency. And I think he has some personally held beliefs that are kind of Republican, kind of like his opinion on Iran. He fought Obama on the JCPOA. He also fought Biden on his stance with Iran. And interesting, when Obama was president and Gold Bar Bob fought him on the JCPOA, they brought charges against him. And interestingly, he fights Biden, and again, they bring charges against him. So the lawfare continues. Now, the only issue I have with Menendez is that they likely already had dirt on the guy, knowing what he was involved in. And we're like, look, if you're not going to play ball with us with the Iran deal, then what we're going to do, because he fought them and he's kind of sided with Republicans on the Iran deal, saying we can't help Iran. He was also on the right side of the Cuba embargo. But all that being said, they got him, right? They got him dead to rights with lots and lots of evidence, including, I think, DNA evidence. So I think it's over for him. He said he'll be vindicated, he'll be cleared, but today he quit. I don't know what kind of deal he got with that. Maybe he made a deal for his son, who's in the House of Representatives. And I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the extent of any of it. I'm waiting to find out from some of my New Jersey contacts. But interesting to me that Gold Bar Bob resigned after he said he was going to run as an independent and he wasn't going anywhere. He's out. So he's out. Kim Cheadle is out. Que mala eres, Vice President Kamala Harris. She's in. And she's, I don't know, pretty much the presumptive nominee. She's gotten more than half the delegates that she needs in order to win the nomination. at which time I believe Barack Obama will weigh in and say, she earned it fair and square. This wasn't given to her. Joe stepped aside. It was a competitive process, but Kamala got it. I'm trying to make it seem like there's some sort of democracy in action here, but there isn't. And I mean, in so much as these are party politics, right? So the party decides who's running, not the people, right? The party. People can vote in the primary, but the party decides these things. That's why you have delegates. Anyway, point is, that's what's going on there. You've got all of that, and then you've got articles of impeachment that were brought against Kamala Harris by Andy Ogles from Tennessee. Now, they may not materialize to anything. They may not get to a floor vote. They may not even get out of committee. But I'm glad that he's out there swinging. So that's what we've been talking about tonight, as well as homes being smaller, interest rates being high, the jobs report likely about to go in for an adjustment like all the other reports have, and the CPI numbers, and, of course, your calls. Let me see. Where do we go? I want to start with a call. I want to go to Paul. He's in Zanesville, Ohio. And, Paul, let's put Paul on hold right now so that I can speak with him. Okay. Looks like that's not working out. Yeah, I don't think anything's happening. Okay. Let us try to go to another call. Let's go to Diane, who is listening from Chicago, streaming richvaldez.com. Diane, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. It no longer is on at 1 o'clock here in Chicago.
You want to talk about Kamala Harris, right?
Right. I was going to say that.
Go ahead.
This is kind of precarious because the debate is going to be when he does confront Kamala. There's this issue, this current social media people. It's hard to say what I'm saying. She's very with the woke crowd who are going to just stumble over themselves because it's going to be the woman president, the black lady, and all of this and all of that.
Sure.
And he has to be calm, cool, collected, whatever, and not go into all the witch hunting and all that, and not even get repetitive about the horrible thing that happened on the 27th. Because
you're right, Diane. I think Trump has to be totally prepared to navigate very carefully, because Kamala Harris is going to come at him like a prosecutor and treating him like a predator who hates women. And they're going to try and put him on defense. They're going to try and set him up to lose his cool. But I think Trump knows that. And the good news is he's running on a record, and they're running on a record. And his record is better than theirs when it comes to what he did in the White House. She's going to try and make it about this fake, phony, fraud criminal record, the 34 felony convictions, this, that, and the third. I don't think that's enough because we've seen it already happen, right? We saw it when the whole entire media did it. The whole media. I mean, they were in there every day. They televised these hearings as best they could. There were daily press conferences. That was the height of it. And it didn't get to Trump. So I think that he's skated by on that. But again, they can reopen an old wound. And like anybody who's ever had a scab, you rip off the scab and now it's a little oozy again, and it can hurt. So you're right. I think he needs to be cautious there. And again, thank you, Diane, for listening all the way from Chicago. I appreciate it. Anybody who's listening to the show streaming on richvaldez.com, I appreciate it. Let us continue. Let me see. Where do we go here? All right. I wanted to go to Paul, Zanesville, Ohio. Paul, go right ahead.
Hey, good evening, Rich. Yeah, as I'm listening to all this, and by the way, last night's show was just stellar, man. I loved it. Tonight's show was good, too. Have you ever heard of the term lunatic fringe? Now, I know you was a pastor at one time for, like, prison mates or something like that.
Yeah, I was a chaplain, yeah. But no, I don't know the term. I've always thought the lunatic fringe was our friends on the left.
Well, you hit. There you go. You hit the nail on the head. What it is that these people that are extremists, and actually prophesies it in the Bible in Genesis. I can't remember the verse, but these people they're extremists.
Paul, hang on. I want to get everything you're saying, but your phone is going. So I'm going to put you on hold. Hopefully, we can get a better connection because I want people to hear what you're talking about this particular topic. And let me see. Let me go to one more here before we go. Let's go to Joe, Salem, Arkansas, KSAR. Go right ahead.
Rich, the media just keeps talking about Trump as a threat on democracy. Now, I would hope he would be. I want a constitutional republic. I've had all the democracy of 51% or more of people voting out my rights. And remember Ben Franklin, when he was asked outside of Philadelphia Hall by the people, what kind of government do we have? And he says, you have a republic if you can keep it. And we haven't kept it lately.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll do point number 2. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I got to go to commercial, so go ahead.
Number 2 is I learned here a while back when I seen real estate going sky high, and I had a divorce anyway. I don't want a stick house. I got everything I need, and a buddy of mine that worked for Coachman Industries in Indiana told me, you'll never be sorry if you get you a Coachman. So I got a 29-footer, and it's better than a house. And so, and there's no
I've always wanted one of those. Those cost a fortune, though.
You mean the Coachman?
Yeah. A 29-footer.
Oh, yeah, it's just right. Queen bedroom. And I was looking for the floor plan where I can sit right here in the dinette and reach everything. I can reach my stove, my fridge, my sink if I don't want to get up, And they got 6-inch ceilings and 6-inch floors, central, everything. You don't have stuff sticking out at you and stuff. So, yeah, it's top of the line. There used to be another really fancy one named Carriage. Now, I read up on these Coachman boys. That was 3 families that came from England, and they built coaches one at a time for the aristocrats, and that's why they're so nice.
Oh, wow.
And,
yeah, listen, I've always wanted one of those, Joe. That's kind of like part of my plan. Like, I want to retire as young as I can, and I don't mind doing radio till like I'm a million years old, but I want to be able to, not have to work as soon as possible. And I would love to do that. I would love to just jump in an RV and take my sweet time going across the country. I would probably spend, 3, 4, 5 months just on the East Coast, going all the way up into New York, all the way up into Albany. There's so much to look at here on the East Coast, straight down to Florida. And then, kind of going up and down, straight across all the way, Oregon, Washington, California, all the way down to San Diego. And, all the whole way across. And I figured that would take a couple of years, right, to do it as slowly as I'd like to do it, taking it in every step of the way. And since I'm on radio stations in a lot of these places, stop in, do a live show, and really just enjoy America at night and during the day, right? During the day, I'll be on the road and doing my thing. Again, it's a long-term goal, but I would love to do that. And, why not better than an RV or, I always call them tour buses like the big superstars have, because they have it so good on those tour buses. They look like huge limos with apartments inside. It's like a penthouse inside of a huge limo. And I've seen some that cost, $500,000 and whatnot. And that's, as much as most people's homes, at least here on the East Coast. So, kudos to you for having one of those. I think you made a good choice. I'm glad it's working out for you. And I think you're right about the republic versus the democracy. And democracy, or pure democracy, is not what we have, obviously. But the democratic process and the use of democracy within our republic is something that we use. And it's not the majority that rules in every scenario, but 50+1 is how you win elections. And this is how, the Democrats, and not just all Democrats, I should really say, the left within the Democrat Party, the left within the media, the left within higher education, they try to use this to disinform people. Not just to misinform them, but to really disinform them, to give them this false information that ultimately gets their thinking different. And when their thinking is different, then they can't help but think, the Constitution is just totally wrong. Because how could you have this crazy, archaic device, this system called the Electoral College? How could that be a thing if we have to be a democracy. And of course, this is where we have these debates, and they want to stack the court and all of that. So, Joe, thank you for your call. Nice to talk to you, sir. Hopefully we'll come back to our buddy Paul on WHIT momentarily. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. I think that we have isolated the deep state and gotten a secure phone line for our buddy Paul on WHIT, right? Or is it HIT or HIZ? Help me out here. Z. There we go.
HIZ.
I don't know why I was thinking WIT. Forgive me, folks at WHIZ. Paul, go right ahead. Lunatic Fringe.
Yes, sir. Well, you know that I think that's what I'm experiencing here is watching a lunatic fringe take place. It's a Bible prophecy. You were a former, what do you say, pastor or
chaplain, police chaplain.
Chaplain, yeah, there. Yeah, and you know, and I've heard a lot of people talk about, well, this is a sign of the end of the times and everything. You know, when something like that happens, you get extremists, and they're on both sides. And I just want to know if you agree with me about that, Rich, because it just seems to me like nobody can get along anymore. And,
sure.
You know, this Kamala Harris, they went from dumb to dumber, man. I'm sorry, but I can't help it. You know.
Well, check this out, Paul. Yeah, I think you're right. We definitely went from dumb to dumber, or as my mom used to say in Spanish, from Guatemala to Guatapeor. So from Guata bad to Guata worse. It sounds funnier in Spanish. But the reality is, yes, the lunatic fringe is growing. And the reason it's growing is because there's a market for it. When I was in 8th grade, 7th grade, there were these VHS tapes that you could rent if you were 18 years old called Faces of Death. And you know, we always found somebody to rent them, and it was just a documentary on how people are killed in different places, whether they be electrocutions, hangings, beheadings, and whatever. And again, it was gory. It was gory, but because it was, stuff you shouldn't watch, it was taboo. Everybody wanted to watch it. And that's the same as a good conspiracy theory. It really is. You know, there's always elements of truth in every conspiracy theory, but they're there, right? And I hate to use that word because once you use it, people start to, question your credibility or say, hey, I believe in the conspiracy theory. Okay, I'm glad you do. But the bottom line here is, the amount of people, I've never seen so many people think that every major politician that they've never met, they've never shook their hand, they've never had a phone call with, they think these people are all body doubles wearing masks. They're drones. They are androids. They are fake hybrid humans. It's just bizarre. And again, I'm not saying those things can't be real, but I know for the most part that they're not real right this second. So the fact that Joe Biden's got more stretch work on his face than Nancy Pelosi, more plastic surgery, doesn't mean that he's not the same Joe Biden that he's always been. But many would disagree with me and say the real Biden was killed in 2020. Just crazy stuff. So I'm going to finish this on the other side of the break, Paul. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
There's more news in your commentary, in your analysis, than there is on the news network.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I can't remember a time where we've been through something like this.
This has been the craziest month in American politics that I can possibly recall. It was less than a month ago that Joe Biden and Donald Trump were debating in the CNN debate.
Less than a month.
Less than a month. We had a failed assassination attempt. We had a president literally saying, no, I'm not going to run for re-election less than a month before the Democratic National Convention. But here is the thing, Sarah Seidner, for all of the excitement that Democrats have over Kamala Harris, it is going to be difficult to beat Donald Trump, and I want to give you an understanding of why. Let's take a look here just first at the favorable views of Donald Trump. We know that Donald Trump has historically been unpopular. But take a look now. After the Republican National Convention, in the ABC News Ipsos poll, he recorded his highest ever favorable rating at 40%. That's not a one-off. Take a look at the Quinnipiac University poll, 46%. That's the highest ever in that pollster. The fact is, Donald Trump is more popular now than he ever has been before. So, yes, Democrats can make this switcheroo, but they're still going to have to beat Donald Trump, a Donald Trump who is stronger, Sarah, than he has ever been before.
That's Harry Enton from CNN. That's not Fox News. That's not Breitbart. That's not any Newsmax. That's not a conservative-leaning network. That's CNN, who tends to typically hate Trump. But the numbers don't lie. And in the new Reuters Ipsos poll, you've got Kamala Harris up by 2 points, which is within the margin of error, which is more than 2 points. So it's technically not even a real lead, right? For a real lead to count, it's got to be outside of the margin of error. But we could take it as a 2-point lead for Harris on one poll, but there's another dozen or 13 polls that show otherwise. Anyway, your thoughts on this. Let's go to Marcel calling from Brooklyn, New York, WFAS. Go right ahead.
Hey, good evening, Rich. Great to be back. It's been a while, ever since you guys are very busy instead. Oh, yes. Oh, Harry Ensign, the senior data reporter of the fake news network CNN, that's what Trump says, yes. Always about the Democratic Party. And even if Vice President Harris becomes its presidential nominee, it will be facing a former president who has never been more popular. So just like yesterday, he pulled out several polls, and that's what he said. Biden 4 points, Trump 1%. But according to this from Quinnipiac University, 46%. That is the highest ever pollster ever. And the fact is, he is more popular now than he ever has been before, and declares summarizing the new polls. And even Sarah Seidner then invited to demonstrate.
Yeah, we just heard the audio. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I like to go with Kamala Harris. She is going to be beating Trump and J.D. Vance. It's a matter of fact.
How is it a matter of fact if the only facts we have are the numbers from the polls, and the polls are showing that Trump beats her in most cases?
Oh, yeah. He will make America great again and back to the White House after he declared on our election day, November the 5th.
How, Marcel?
Well, how? He will protect the issues, the border security, even...
You're saying Harris is going to win. I'm not following.
Oh, no, which? I like to go with Kamala Harris. She will always win on November the 5th.
How? How does she win?
How does she win?
Trump is leading in the battleground states. What states, what's the path to victory for her?
Oh, New York, Michigan, Wisconsin, everywhere in the red, or should I say blue states.
What makes you think that she's going to win in Michigan or Wisconsin?
Oh, by Biden? Oh.
No, what makes you think that?
Oh, she will run in Michigan and Wisconsin.
No, we know she's running, Marcel. What makes you think she'll win?
What I think about she win?
Yes, thank you.
She will make things change.
No, it doesn't. That's what she'll do. What makes you think she'll win? What are you basing that on?
The issues like education, health.
All right, so let's use that one. What is Kamala Harris's position on education?
Get some higher education, graduate, and always succeed in life.
Now, where does she say that? Is it on her campaign website, or when you talk to her on the phone? How did you get that information?
Oh, the Harris website. I think about it. But Rich,
I'm looking at the Harris website, and I don't see get some higher education and succeed in everything you do. I don't see it on there.
Oh, that's.
Are you making this up as you go along, Marcel?
Yeah.
I can tell. I can tell. Do your parents know you're on the phone right now, Marcel?
No.
Your caregivers, are they aware that you're on the phone?
No. Don't lie.
Maybe you should let the grown-ups in charge know that you're on the phone by yourself, because we don't want you to say something that might embarrass you, okay?
I'm sorry, Rich, but I always try to get things confused.
Yeah, well, you did a good job of that tonight, Marcel. Thank you for the call. Godspeed to you, sir. All right, let me see. I will continue. I am going to go to, let's see, where do we go here? Jim, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, listening on KDKA. Go right ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Rich? Hey, I want to talk about Bob the Crook Menendez. I mean,
yes, Gold Bar Bob.
Yeah, well, I have a friend who lives in New Jersey. Now, it didn't get a lot of publicity because it came down 7 days ago. He was convicted on 16 counts. Oh, yeah, he was. All 16. Now, here's some of the counts, okay? If he took in money from not only Egypt, but Qatar. You know where Qatar is? Qatar is where Hamas is sanctuary. Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah, you know, that's a 15-year sentence right there for taking money from a foreign governor. And he had 16 counts, guilty in all counts. He's going to be sentenced, I believe, in the fall. He's holding on probably because he wants another month of salary. And, you know, I mean, he beat a case in 2015. I remember that case.
Oh, yeah,
Bob
me too.
He was an eye doctor from Medicare.
Yeah, Solomon Melgen.
Yeah, right. And what he said was, we have to titrate the dose. Oh, yeah, he did. $105 million. He was giving them I think it was, if I remember right, he had an apartment in Paris. He flew him all over the place, private jet. And now he went to jail. Melgen,
yeah, he did. Matter of fact, I have I grew up in a pretty decent area, but born in Brooklyn, moved to Jersey, and some of my friends on the Jersey side made bad choices in life and ended up getting locked up. And one of my friends that got locked up called me, and he was telling me, believe it or not, he called me to talk about politics and to tell me everybody in jail wants to vote for Trump. And it was very funny. But he also mentioned, he's like, I met a guy when I was here. This guy, Solomon, this guy's an eye doctor. He was doing Medicaid fraud. He was telling me all this stuff. And he'd met Dr. Melgen while he was in jail. So that was the guy that originally took the fall when Menendez got the charges back in 2015. And they stumbled upon this guy. Now they got Menendez dead to rights. And I know that, there's a lot of crooked politicians out there, Jim. I think there's a lot of them that engage in what Menendez is involved in. And not just in Washington, like in state houses, in town halls. There are mayors out there that use their, municipal workers to work on their pool in their house and to work on their family members' backyards. And it's like they're personal employees. And all sorts of fraud and waste and abuse that goes on. Yet the only time you'll hear about it is when you piss off the wrong person and they want to make it, public that you're a criminal, a fraudster. Otherwise, everybody gets away with it up until, right? Then somebody becomes a stool pigeon and says, all right, I'm ratting you out. And that's the way politics works. And Menendez's day came. I don't know if it has anything to do with his positions on Iran, but it seems to me that both times that there was issues, right? Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon. I'd say a few days away by Jake Sullivan's count, or Admiral Kirby. And the fact that both times when Obama was pushing the JCPOA and when Biden was pushing it, both times that Menendez was like, no, I'm not going to support this regime that is, shouting death to America and taking a pro-American stance against the Iranians. Both times they decided to bring charges against him, saying that he's, dealing with underage prostitutes in the Dominican Republic. And maybe he was, right? And I'm not saying he is an unsung hero here. I'm just saying that they will take out their own if they have to in order to continue the gravy train. And I'm sure whoever's influencing the Democrats in Washington to be so pro-Iran has got to be giving them more gold bars than Gold Bar Bob has ever taken. Jim in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA, shout out to you guys. Thanks for the call. Folks, we come right back with your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
She absolutely can. Now, look, she's got work to do. She's kind of been in the shadow of the president for the last 4 years. She has to get out there and put forward her own platform, a vision for the future with energy, vitality, courage, all these things we know about the vice president, but introduce herself to a lot of voters who only know her through her reputation as the vice president. Now, she has a couple of great opportunities. One is she can talk about all the amazing things the Biden-Harris team has achieved, like passing huge bipartisan legislation, the CHIPS and Science Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law. But she's also her own person, and she's her own leader, and she can separate herself from policies where she may have disagreed with the president. You know, maybe she has a better idea for how we should secure our border, for example.
All right, that's Congressman Seth Moulton. And let me just say, I think he's wrong. I mean, really, just on everything here. He said she can separate herself by disagreeing with Biden. So she's running against Trump, and you think she's got 3 months and a couple of weeks. 3 months, a couple of weeks, and she's supposed to differentiate herself by disagreeing publicly with Biden, who's going to be on the campaign trail with her, endorsing her, pushing her candidacy. I mean, you've got to be a special kind of, you fill in the blank, to think that she's going to run against Biden and against Trump, and that's going to be a winning strategy? Absolutely not. It's not going to work. She has to marry Biden. If she draws contrast between her and Biden, it may help her, but it's not going to help her with Trump. That's primary strategy. She doesn't have time for a primary. If she's going to run a primary in the next 3 months, she's going to lose. I got more news for you. If she's going to run a presidential election in the next 3 months, in only 3 months, she's likely going to lose. Why? Because nobody runs presidential elections in 3 months. Trump was running in 2015 when he ran, right? And there was plenty of speculation, years of it. Kamala Harris has an extraordinarily uphill challenge. Yes, according to the reports, which I don't know how true they are. These could have been just pledges that people agreed to bring back in from the $90 million that they put on hold 2 weeks ago because of Biden. But the claim is that she raised $100 million yesterday, one day. Okay. I mean, one might think that's a lot of money, and I'm the first one to say, man, that's a truckload of cash. Good for her. There's a new enthusiasm. But if it was already pledged and they just said, we're putting it on hold until you get rid of Biden, $90 million, and you raised $10 million in one day because you put a candidate forward, then it's not really headline record-breaking news, right? But they'll try and paint it that way so that they could sway the media, sway the people, and be like, Kamala's fantastic. She's gangbusters. This is terrific. Not so much. Kamala does not have a record. The record that she has is weak. Trump has a record. And like Harry Enton said, and again, he's not the be-all, end-all of anything. But he was right when he said that he's more popular and he's stronger today than he was when he was president. Because people now have contrast. They have context. They can say, you know what? There was more money in my pocket. When Trump was president, the annual household income was $6,500. That's gone down by, I think, $2,000 since then. Not good. Nobody wants that. $2,000 is that trip you wanted to take with your family. You might have wanted to go to Europe, and now you're stuck going to Disney. Or maybe you were saving to go to Disney the first time you've ever been there. And now you can't. You're jumping in the car and driving to the local Six Flags. People don't have it like they used to. Things are tougher than they used to be. I used to go to Miami a lot more. Can't. It's just not the same. Everything costs that much more. So people realize that things are better with Trump, and they're going in that direction. And that's a bottom line that is going to be very difficult to beat. Now, when he says she might be better on the border than Biden, are you kidding me? She's literally the border czar. Don't come. That was her biggest contribution. And then attacking America, saying it was because America ruined things in the Northern Triangle, and now we have to be responsible for these people. Now, listen, a lot of people tend to believe that line. That, I went to your country and I messed things up, and because I messed it up, now I owe you something. No. If I kick your butt today and I break your nose, call your health insurance to fix it. You got into a fight. That's just how it goes. You want to sue me? You could sue me. But I don't have a responsibility to fix your nose. You shouldn't have gotten stupid and gotten punched in the face, right? At least that's my thinking. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. But I don't think that's how it works. Yes, if we're at war with a country and we help. We don't want to leave it in a shambles. I get that. But these stories that they come up with this Northern Triangle stuff is a stretch, in my opinion. It really is. It just is. It's not there's no reason why we should have 10+ million people in America today because of something that was done by Reagan, Bush, or somebody else a million years ago. No, I'm sorry. That just does not work that way, right? We have this because of Biden's fecklessness today. Obama paved the way for it. Trump put the kibosh on it. And here we are again with Biden and the freak show at the border. And Kamala Harris is right there with him. So good luck trying to disassociate yourself from that. Best thing that Trump can do is put them all on offense. Let them go on. He goes on offense, they go on defense, and just keep them there. It'll be like taking candy from a baby, if it's done right. And I think he's the one to do it. Folks, coming right back. Speed round. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, we're doing some old school talk radio here. We're live, we're national, and we're on the phone with you all, the American people. 833-4825-337-833-4-Valdez. It's the speed round. That means you've got less than 30 seconds to make your point. I want to go to Ann, Pawcatuck, Connecticut, WJJF. Go right ahead, quickly.
Yeah, hi. I just told your
sure. Tell me now.
Screener. Yeah. One of the programs before yours comes on. I'm sorry I didn't get because they just left the whole
That's fine.
program for.
What's the bottom line?
It was about Harris's viewpoints of what she wants to do and all that, and the whole thing sounded pure socialist.
Yeah, she tends to favor that, Ann. There was not a cartoon, but it was cartoonish. It was like a children-oriented commercial where she was talking about how we all have to do this so that everybody can get their fair share. And I wish I had the audio to play it. I've played it in the past, about 3 years ago. But yeah, she clearly has a soft spot for socialism, or just kind of did the ad without reading the script. But you're right, Ann. I don't think Kamala Harris has a good idea of how to run the government. I think she can be susceptible to socialist, Marxist ideas, which is never good for anybody. Let's see. Ralph, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. 20 seconds. Go for it.
All right. Hey, Rich, first and foremost, thank you so much for the great job that you do in creating this forum for us to discuss these topics. I'm creeping around on patrol tonight. And you guys,
you're on the job. Thank you, brother. I appreciate your service. And I hate to cut you off after a compliment, but the music means we got to run. Ralph, make sure you call back tomorrow. We'll get you on right away. Hopefully you're safe out there in KDKA land. Frank, Brody, Paul, sorry I didn't get to you tonight. I promise to get to you tomorrow. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.